So, looks like we're under highway speed here finally. Lasted a bit longer than I thought it was going to be, but oh well. Tis what tis. So, we're heading out to take a picture of the Yankee Siege. World champion pumpkin chucker. Yep, you hear to hear. And this story's about how the Yankee Siege came to be. Now, the way I picture it, you get probably 3 guys sitting on the tailgate of a pickup truck that's loaded down with pumpkins, and they're trying to figure out what to do with them because they'd had a pretty good crop and they didn't sell any of them today, so they figured they were going to be stuck with what's left of the pumpkins. And they're sitting there drinking their Budweisers and contemplating life, and one of them just all of a sudden gets up, grabs a pumpkin, and in a shot put fashion chucks it as far as he could. You know, ha! Beat that. Well, the fella says, hold my beer. Now across the street. Now across the street, good old Waldorf and Stadler. Well, they probably weren't Waldorf and Stadler, but they look like Waldorf and Stadler. They knew a bit about these 3 boys. They know that they make something out of nothing, so they grabbed their lawn chairs and the coolers and sat down and proceeded to watch the goings-on. So the second fella, he grabs himself a pumpkin and with a mighty wind up and underhand pitch tosses it and beats the other fella's throw by few feet. He goes, huh, take that. And the other fella says, hold my beer. And he grabs himself a pumpkin and does a double spin and hammer throw style toss and doubles the distance of the furthest toss so far and just starts laughing. And the other 2 fellas will say, that's no fair. You crossed the line. What line? Oh, that imaginary line right there. Says, you fellas didn't say nothing about no line. Plus, if you subtract the distance, I still went further than you, and there was a big hullabaloo and whatnot. And they decided they had to. They decided they needed to write down some rules. Waldorf and Stadler are egging them on. The rest of the town folks seeing Waldorf and Stadler sitting out there, a crowd started to develop. And somebody set up a grill and was starting to sell hot dogs, and it was getting to be a regular goings-on. So 3 fellas write their rules and started chucking pumpkins, and third fella ended up winning. His style was definitely better. And that's when they noticed the crowd. They're like, my God, we might be onto something. We'll have to do this again next year. So they wrote up the rules and did some marketing, posted banners, and the next year they had the Greenfield Pumpkin Chucking Contest. Open invitations all far and wide, and they had 3 categories: the shot put, the underhand pitch, and the hammer toss. And they actually drew quite a crowd. Made some money. Alright, we'll do this again next year. Well, next year the crowd didn't really grow so much. As well, you know, once you've seen a bunch of guys chuck pumpkins, it's, I don't know, maybe it loses something. So these fellas said, we got to make it more exciting. What do we do? said, well, let's open it up for pumpkin chucking machines. So the next year they said, pumpkin chucking contest with new category for pumpkin chucking machines. Everybody had to see what a pumpkin chucking machine looks like, so off they went. And a bigger crowd showed up. They had their pumpkin chucking contest, and then the machine showed up. And first fella basically had a slingshot, and for the cup he doubled up old Mary's 52 double G brassiere and attached that to some bungee cords, and got two guys brave enough to hold the ends of it, and he loaded up his pumpkin and let her fly. And good news was he beat all the hand-tossed pumpkins, but not by that big a margin, but the crowd got a good chuckle out of it. The next guy comes up with his pumpkin chucking cannon, and I'm going to tell you, he didn't really think this one through, because he loaded it right up and lit the fuse, and he may not have won the contest, but he invented pumpkin puree, that's for sure, and it covered half the crowd and half the launching area, so it took him a while to clean up, and he was told he couldn't come back next year. And then a couple catapults showed up, and of course they won the show. And the three original fellas said, well, you know, we got to figure out how we can win our own contest here and put up some prize money. One of them says, how are we going to do that? Well, the fella says, well, I know that. We need a trebuchet. A trebuchet, you say? Yeah, we need a trebuchet. All right, let's get one. One question. What's that? What in the hell's a trebuchet? Well, it's this long-armed catapult with a counterweight and a slingshot on the end of it. And back in the olden days, when an army wanted to siege a castle, they'd set up a couple of these because they could chuck the stones further than they could, the castle could chuck them back at them. So they'd set them just outside range and start chunking the rocks at the castle until it knocked it down and they could take over the castle. The fellow says, that's what we need then. We need a trebuchet. So they started building one, and next year they show up, and sure enough, they won the pumpkin chucking contest with their trebuchet, easily beating everybody else. But the next year, somebody else showed up with one, gave them a bit of competition. Still won, but they had to keep making their trebuchet even bigger and better, so they modified it, and they set it up, I believe it was in fall of 2013. And the way the rules had evolved, everybody had 3 chucks or 3 launches, and first thing in the morning, this growing to quite a crowd. They actually had campground set up to help house some of the people that come from far and wide to see the pumpkin chucking contest. So first thing in the morning, they set up and they let her fly, and there was stunned silence because this pumpkin was going to achieve orbit. I mean, it was just impressive. It took off like nothing they'd ever seen before. Jaws were on the ground. Utter silence. And then the Budweiser for breakfast section kicked in and started hooting and hollering like they were watching a big one at Talladega. Then the roar went throughout the crowd as the pumpkin still gaining altitude. So, yep, it's quite a sight. But way out yonder in the camping ground, old Bart and Bertha were sitting there enjoying their cup of tea and scones. They saw a nice campground. They didn't know all the goings on was going to happen, so they were sitting there enjoying themselves. A nice peaceful morning, and pumpkins launched from a trebuchet don't break the sound barrier, so the sound of the hoots reached them, and they looked up saying, what in the hell is that all about? And all of a sudden they see it. Here comes a pumpkin. Landed right between their trailer and the trailer next campsite over. Splattered, and nobody was injured, but made a general mess of the campground. Safety officers got involved and said, well, might be perhaps you shouldn't be chucking any more pumpkins with that thing today. Well, yeah, we kind of understand that. And he says, yeah, one good gust of wind, you could take somebody out. But they said, well, can we at least measure that one and see if it counts? And they measured it up, and that pumpkin had been chucked over half a mile. Record stands to this day. And that there is the story of the Yankee Siege. World champion pumpkin chucker. Yeah, hope you enjoyed this little tale. Thanks for watching, and ride safe.